A very warm welcome. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidi. The time is 10 minutes past 9 Central African time. And we're going to be shifting gears now to a hashtag Africa Focus feature. This is a part of the show where we look at some of the biggest and most pressing stories across the African continent. And our top story this time around takes us to a dramatic and deeply troubling shift in Sudan's civil war. The paramilitary rapid support forces known as the RSF has entered and is now reported to be controlling the city of Al Fashir in Darfur. This after the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, withdrew from their last major outpost within the region. And this shift, I think, raises huge questions for the direction of the conflict, humanitarian, ethnic, and regional aspects of this civil war. And this comes amid reports of mass killings, summary executions, and mass displacements. And I think we can all agree when it comes to Sudan at this point, the stakes could not be any higher. And joining us right now is Ramadan Ahmed Birima, editor of SudanHorizon.com. And he'll be bringing some deep insight as a journalist, as a political analyst, and as a Sudanese to give us a bit more insight on what's currently happening in Al Fashir at this moment and what does it mean in the greater scheme of things in the civil war. Brother Ramadan, assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Salilo. Thank you very much for hosting me.
No, the pleasure is all ours. I think just to begin with, in your own words, what exactly happened in Al Fashir? Because I've been doing a bit of reading. The SAF says it withdrew to spare civilian lives, while the RSF claims full control. Help our listeners understand just the sequence of events and where we currently find ourselves.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to your viewers everywhere. I think the incidents or developments that happened in Al Fashir is something that is too complicated, and I don't even know where to start from. But just to give you a brief background, the city has been besieged for the last 2.5 years. People were denied food, and the RSF besieged the city for about 2 years and a half, where food supplies were not allowed to enter. The army was also there protecting the civilians and their properties. What happened is that the RSF attacked the city 256 times. The army there stood their ground and defended. Men and women were defending the city. It is something historic, and I think it is worthy of being taught in the most prestigious colleges, military colleges in the world. So at the end of the day, the RSF, with support of its mercenaries and control centers in the United Arab Emirates and possibly in Tel Aviv or whatsoever in other parts of the world, there was a huge support. And at the end of the day, the city has to be taken over because of the amount of the weapons that the mercenaries were using with support of foreign forces. So the city is taken. Now, the problem is sometimes when we hear in Africa that a city is taken by rebels or the rebels attack the villages or something like that, there is certain image that comes to our mind. What happens in Darfur or in Al Fashir specifically is something that completely beyond imagination. The amount of the atrocities, the brutality that the RSF has used against civilians, it is something that you can't imagine. Just to give you an example, in Jenena, which is controlled by RSF, is one of the cities that was already under control. A man was brought and slaughtered yesterday in celebration of the takeover of Al Fashir by the RSF, let alone the elderly, the women, the children who were told that there was a corridor that was opened and they were allowed to come out of the city. So people in their thousands, they rushed, trying to run for their lives, to only found out that it was a trap. A
mm,
trap was set for them, and all of them got killed. According to the joint forces, which are composed of the indigenous people, actually, who were previously rebels during the time of the al-Bashir, and now they are fighting alongside the Sudan army. According to them, about 2,000 people have been killed just over the last 2 days from the time al-Fashir was taken over. What I can tell is that what happens in Darfur, in Sudan in general, by the RSF is being used as a functional group. But the real perpetrator of all these atrocities is the new colonialism, neoliberalism, and the imperialist forces are behind all this. They are using the United Arab Emirates also as a functional state in order to have access or to control the resources of the country. As you know, Sudan is a very rich country, as you know,
mm,
rich in everything, the richest country in Africa after DRC. The problem with the imperialism is that it doesn't it always behave in a way that it needs to have hegemony, some kind of control over resources. It's not like collaboration in
mm,
the in bilateral relationship. In the international relationships, countries come in order to invest what is called foreign investment. And the foreign investment is 50-50. You win, it's a win-win situation where investors come and invest in the country, and they benefit and the country benefits. But now the imperialist approach is not like that. The imperialist approach is that they want you to be the guardian of your own resources so that they can exploit it the way they want.
mm, mm. I want to continue stressing on that point. The role of the UAE in the civil war. I think it's one that's not spoken about enough. People are not educated enough about how they are essentially fueling this civil war and to what end. Um, what are some of cases where you could mention the direct involvement of the UAE into this war, and why is it so important for people to educate themselves about it to a point where we even see boycotts of the UAE? Because right now it seems it's business as usual while they're essentially funding and fueling a civil war between brothers.
I think you nailed it actually, and this is the most important question. Although your questions are always important, according to the army, Sudanese army, there are so many evidences, being passports, UAE officers, military officers who are operating in the RSF controlled areas. Some of them actually got killed. And I think you can get the statistics from our website, that is sudanhorizon.com. You can get a lot of information there. At the moment, um, we in Africa, generally, we know that a lot of rebel movements actually erupted in Africa. And when it comes to armament, there is no any rebel movement that can own artillery and heavy machinery, except if there is support from outside. And at the moment, while I'm talking to you now, the United Arab Emirates is using South Sudan, Chad, and DRC, the Central Africa, in order to enter ammunition and all the logistics into Darfur and the RSF controlled areas. There is um, there is a list of airplanes that fly from UAE to Uganda and to Chad, and there are mercenaries, the Colombian mercenaries. The last month, actually, there were a number of them that got killed, and I think the Colombian government was launching a media campaign are trying to urge their citizens not to come to Sudan as mercenaries. This is in addition to Haftar in Libya. That General Haftar is also receiving support from UAE, and through Libya, they pass it through the border into Darfur. Now, the capture of Al-Fashir itself is an evidence of UAE's support. There are so many videos that show mercenaries that are there, the weapons, the even the airstrikes, foreign airstrikes were used to shell Al-Fashir. So all these
mm,
are evidence that UAE is doing it. And also, it is not an accusation. It is just a statement of a fact, because UAE has already done it in Yemen. In Yemen, they have done it already, and
mm.
they supported the Houthis. In Libya, they have done it, and they supported Haftar. UAE has participated in military coups, like what happens now in Madagascar. You must have heard what happens in Madagascar.
Yeah.
This is a UAE support. UAE is doing a lot of sabotage in Africa, in order to loot the resources of the country, and this is exactly the imperialist mentality that is being manifested in Africa. It is unfortunate, very unfortunate. While I'm talking to you now, UAE is trying to bribe not only governments, but even African media and African organizations. Continental organizations are being bribed in a form of supporting budgets. And I don't want to mention organizations here, because all of the continental organizations are very well known.
Mm,
So UAE is operating in Africa, and I think Africans need to do something like how they did to colonialism. So colonialism has gone through the door, and it is now coming back through the window, using functional states and functional groups in order to dominate in Africa and loot the resources.
mm, mm. Um, how would you position this moment currently of the SAF's withdrawal from Al Fashir? Does it present a turning point of some sort in the civil war?
No, I don't think it can be anyway in favor of the RSF, because RSF had already controlled Khartoum and the center, the Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera state is in the center of Sudan. RSF once upon a time controlled almost 80% of Sudan, but the army and the popular resistance groups, they managed to push them to back into Darfur, into margins, actually to marginal areas. And I don't think the takeover of Al-Fashir can in any way um, be considered as an advantage for the RSA, because the army at the moment has now mobilized the popular resistance, and I think within a few weeks or so, Al-Fashir will be retaken, and also the whole Darfur will be cleared of the RSF.
Mm. Lastly, before I let you go, Brother Ramadan, when we started this conversation, you mentioned something which I think is very, very important. You said the situation in Sudan is very, very complicated. And I think personally for me, that has been one of the Achilles heel for people from across the continent and across the world to try and engage with what's happening with the civil war in Sudan, to understand it, to know the different actors. How do we uncomplicate it? How do we get to a point where we engage with it similar way we engage with the genocide in Gaza and all the other atrocities across the world? Because it's very, very important and it demands attention. But I feel it won't, because we always say it's too complicated.
It is good that you ask this question, and I think the mentioning of Gaza is completely relevant, absolutely relevant to what happens in Sudan, because the perpetrator is almost the same. What happened in Gaza is that Gaza people managed to get their message across the world, and the media actually reacted very positively, and accordingly, most of the free nations of the world, including Europe and America, Central America, Asia, all people actually reacted positively, and denounced what was happening, the perpetration of the genocide that was happening in Gaza. The case of Sudan is different. Sudan, up to now, nobody actually knows what's going on. And I see you pointing out that there is civil war. There is no civil war at all. There is
Mm,
invasion. There is foreign invasion in Sudan, and there is popular resistance alongside the national army. There is no civil war. What happens here is that the invasion, the foreign invasion, is composed of local Bedouin Arabs in Western Darfur. Some of them, actually, not all of them. In addition to Arabs, the Bedouins that come from Chad, from Niger, from Mali, and all the Saharan region. These people are looking for a homeland. For them, it looks like they are looking for settlement. And the imperialist forces thought it is time for them to have, it is exactly like how the Palestine was taken over to be given to other people. It's almost exactly what happens in Sudan, is a kind of replacement, a
mm,
settlement kind of resettlement. So there is no civil war. There is invasion. Um, what happens is the RSF does not in any way observe what is known as rules of engagement in times of war. When they attack a city or a town or a village, they loot, they rape, they kill, and they kill indiscriminately. They don't differentiate between men and women, children and elderly. They don't differentiate between those who are holding arms and those who are not at all. They just killing because just to terrorize people and chase them away from their homes so that they can take over these homes. This is exactly what they did when they occupied Khartoum. They chased away all the citizens in Khartoum. About 12 million people got displaced in Khartoum. Their homes got looted, and their children, women, and everything. So this is something that is completely different from any kind of war that we have come to know. At the moment, the army is standing, defending its people, and the Sudanese people are in full support in the armed forces. There has never been in history that the Sudanese armed forces have been supported like how it is now.
mm,
It is true that there are some mercenaries or some political forces that are being used as elements, are agents, and this happens in every war. Whenever there is war, you can find those who connive, those who collaborate with the invaders in hoping that if invaders are successful, they can find something for themselves. But it is kind of illusion. So the truth of the fact is that Sudan is now being invaded. There is nothing that calls civil war at all. There is invasion and there is resistance against invasion. And the main forces behind this invasion is imperialist forces supported and aided by the United Arab Emirates, being used as a functional state.
mm, mm, mm. No, thank you so much, Ramadan Ahmed Birima. Really appreciate you giving us your time. And I'm pretty sure as the situation continues to unfold, we'll be getting in touch with you to get the latest to try and educate the world about what's happening in Sudan, because I think it's very, very important. And these kind of conversations need to be had. There you go. That was
Thank you very
Ramadan.
much. Thanks. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
There you go. Ramadan Ahmed Birima, editor of SudanHorizon.com, sharing valuable insight into the fall of Al Fashir, a critical moment in Sudan's, doesn't want me to call it a civil war, but say conflict that has grave implications for Darfur and for its civilians, and I think for the region as a whole. But the question still looms: what's really going on in Sudan, and why is it so difficult to understand? So I drew up a little explainer, just quickly, for those that might not be in touch with what's really happening on the ground in Sudan. Sudan has been at war with itself for nearly 3 years now. It's been a brutal conflict that has destroyed cities, it has displaced families, millions and millions of people have left the country, and it is essentially on the brink of collapse. The fighting is between two rival forces, both once of the same military alliance that ruled Sudan. This after the fall of longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir back in 2019. One side is the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF for short, which is led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. He represents the traditional military establishment of Sudan, the army, the air force, and remnants of the old regimes. The SAF claims to be defending Sudan's sovereignty and unity. While on the other side is the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, which are led by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemedi. The RSF grew out of the Janjaweed militias, the same groups accused of atrocities during the Darfur genocide almost 20 years ago. Mohammed Hamdan commands tens of thousands of fighters. They run different mines across Sudan, gold mines, and they enjoy foreign backing, notably, and I think very, very important, from the United Arab Emirates. So essentially, what began as a power struggle between two generals for control of Sudan's transition to democracy has spiraled into a nationwide conflict, a nationwide civil war, with entire regions falling under competing control. The RSF now dominates most of the Western Sudan, which includes Darfur, while the army, the SAF, controls the east and parts of the capital, Khartoum, which caught in the middle. Civilians, ordinary men and women of Sudan, millions of whom have been displaced, tens of thousands killed, and entire generations essentially starving. Now, the most important element, and I think it's one that we all need to be educating ourselves of, is the element of foreign powers which are fueling this fighting. The UAE, which is top of the list, they've been accused of arming the RSF, while Iran, Turkey, and Russia have supplied weapons to the army. So essentially turning Sudan into a proxy battlefield. So now the latest news of Al-Fashir falling and being under the control of the RSF's command, Darfur is almost complete. It's almost all of it under the control of the RSF, and there are fears that are mounting now. There are reports of waves of ethnic massacres, and mass killings and sexual assaults that have been seen in El Janina. I think it was sometime last year, where again Sudan was in the headlines. But yeah, in short, Sudan's war, it's not just about power at this point, it's about the control of the land, it's about the control of the minerals, natural resources, gold, most notably, and I think identity. And unless the international community acts as it should, this will continue to unfold to become one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. So it's very, very important. It demands all of our attention, and we need to educate ourselves about what's happening in Sudan, because it's right on the African continent. It's on our doorstep. And if we don't take heed to it, there will be spillover. Ultimately, in one way or the other, we here in South Africa will feel the effects of what's happening in Sudan. And we shouldn't be reacting when that time is now happening and is the reality. So yeah, we've come to the end of our hashtag Africa Focus feature. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, news and views will continue after this.